Right, I think for time's sake, I'll start and then people will come in whilst we're doing the caretaking bit. So, hello everyone. So my name's Jess, and this is our second series of webinars, and this is the second one for our summer season. So this is a collaboration between the WaterWise Hub and the Centre for Water Systems at Exeter University. So today's webinar is From Green to Healthy, Quantifying Health and Wellbeing Benefits of Nature-Based Solutions in euPOLIS Cities. So yeah, I'm Jess, I'm one of the postdocs at CWS, and I'll be co-hosting along with Dijana from IECE, which is the Institute of Research, Environment, Civil Engineering and Energy in North Macedonia. Before I hand over to Dijana to introduce our speaker properly, we are recording this session. All your cameras are all turned off. Anyhow, I would quite like it if you kept your microphones muted, just because we're recording this session. And if you would like to rewatch this webinar, we are putting them up on our YouTube channel afterwards, so you can rewatch. We ask also, if you have any questions, there will be a question and answer session at the end. Please put your questions in the chat and we will get to them at the end of the webinar, or raise your hand at the end of the webinar. But yeah, I will now pass over to Dijana and we will start. Thank you very much.
Yes, hello everyone, and thank you for your interest and attendance today. We have a very interesting topic of today's webinar about nature-based solutions and and their impact on human health and social environmental systems well-being. We will present the experience of Horizon 2020 funded project euPOLIS in 4 demonstration sites, cities, urban areas. And what is specific for this project is that has gone beyond the purely qualitative narratives of NBS and included advanced quantification techniques in form of modeling, real-time measurements, social surveying, in order to provide quantified key performance indicators on impact of implementation of nature-based solutions on improvements of status of social, environmental, human and economic systems in urban areas against climate resilience. Today's speaker is Professor Anja Randjelovic from the University of Belgrade, Faculty of Civil Engineering, with a vast expertise in many fields, including hydraulics, hydrology, fluid mechanics, water systems modeling, water and environment, and so on. We are very happy to have her today here and to hear about euPOLIS project experience. So Anja, can I ask you to start your presentation, please?
Dijana, thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for attending. So let me know if you see the shared screen.
Yes, we see it perfectly.
Okay. So one of the colleagues from the WaterWise Hub, who is not so much into the technical stuff, he actually asked me, so how do these nature-based solutions, how are they connected to the water circular sector? And I see many of you here. I recognize some of the names, and I see that many of you are civil engineers, so you might know. But for those who don't, nature-based solutions in cities actually try to, some of them try to use the water at the source and save the resources needed for evacuating the water from the cities. So in trying to help in the urban hydrological cycle, it also helps with the water pollution, with the air pollution, and so on. But let's try to see what are the challenges that exist in modern cities where you have a lot of people living in small areas, so having a lot of pressure on the urban areas to provide good environmental quality, and you have the climate which can be unpredictable, and with the increase in the use of areas for traffic, for living, using different man-made materials, decreasing the perviousness of the areas, we actually managed to cause the urban flooding, and then with it related, we can have decreased water quality in urban cities and also the decreased air quality. What we try to do with the nature-based solutions is to try to solve some of these, to address some of these challenges. I guess when we are talking about the health, the most detrimental effects of urban areas, in addition to the bad air quality or the bad water quality, are the urban heat island effects, where again, with the use of different man-made materials, with the change of the surfaces in the city center, with the higher density of living, we have increased temperatures due to increased absorption of the radiation, but also in combination with the bad air quality, which is caused by different types of small particles floating in the air. We have the how do you say, the reflex of the heat, and it kind of works as a catchment of the heat also in the atmosphere. The effect is that city centers usually have a couple of degrees higher temperature than the suburban or rural areas, and this increase in temperature can actually have very detrimental effects on human health, on the cardiovascular system, on different metabolic processes, on the cognitive functions, and this is very specific to vulnerable groups, babies or elderly people, or human or people who have some compromised health, but it influences the whole population. So it just depends how severe are the negative effects. What we try to do with the nature-based solutions is to increase the greenery in the cities. We try to increase the biodiversity, to provide places for recreation so that we have increased physical activity, maybe to make some areas where people can do community stuff such as farming, and all of these solutions can be very small depending on the available space for their implementation, or can be huge projects like the river restoration, which was done in Singapore, where the whole ecosystem has been tried to be restored using many different sets of nature-based solutions. Nature-based solutions which are related to water are the biofiltration systems, the green walls, the swales or the wetlands, where some of them can be quite small, can use the miniature spaces between buildings or between roads, or can be again quite large. Green walls can be interesting because they use the space. Nobody competes for this type of place because it is vertical, although they have some of their specific effects. Also interesting in urban areas are the green roofs, and this is because they use the areas which again are not occupied by different other activities, and many studies show, the different different good effects of green roofs, such as the runoff mitigation, the heat mitigation. They can apparently improve the biodiversity of the urban areas, but also we have to have always in mind that in order to have all of these positive effects, we have to have really good maintenance. We've done a small study on retrofitting green roofs in one of the research complexes in Belgrade, and what we have actually found in regards to the runoff, that we can increase the resilience of this catchment from a 10-year return period to a 25-year return period. But that is only if this green roof has its is maintained and has its hydrological function. Now, this is just some general introduction to the relation between what we have as nature-based solutions and what we are trying to address with them in urban areas. And now I will try to present you a bit about of the ideas of the euPOLIS project. So the main ideas was to introduce systematic public health and well-being planning criteria for selecting different solutions in urban areas, to engage citizens by using different types of ICT tools and other emerging technologies so that they can not only participate in the planning, but also in the design and especially in the monitoring of implemented solutions, to find solutions which are integrated and to use them as a planning standard, and of course to evaluate all these implemented solutions. The project has just ended. It was a large consortium, and the main points of implementing nature-based solutions were these blue cities, which was Gladsaxe, Łódź, Gladsaxe in Denmark, Łódź in Poland, Belgrade in Serbia, and Piraeus in Greece. And the orange points are the follower cities, which did not have to implement the nature-based solutions, but were following what was done in the main cities, and as much as they could, they implemented some of the technologies. The main cities were selected to cover the different climatic areas, different types of populations, so very largely urbanized areas, or smaller social projects like the one in Gladsaxe, or a park next to a port in Piraeus. So each of the cities has its particulars. Each of the sites has its particulars. Now, this presentation will show you the indicator and planning system of the euPOLIS used to select and to plan the different nature-based solutions. Then it will show you main conclusions of the, let's say, implementation challenges, what we used for monitoring, what we used for the assessment of how well these nature-based solutions have performed, and show you some lessons we've learned and limitations. So yeah, I hope it will satisfy some of your something that you want to know about the health and nature-based solutions. The indicator framework of the project is very closely related to the planning system. What we did was to develop two types of indicators. One type of indicators are the contextual ones, which use the readily available data. And this readily available data was very different in the different sites. Like in Denmark, it was very highly developed databases and projects which existed on the area, whereas in Piraeus or in Belgrade, we had less sophisticated databases or not so local data. But based on the readily available data, based on the data collected locally on site from the stakeholders, we did the initial baseline assessment. For this initial baseline assessment, together with the stakeholders, we have developed what are the goals, what are the targets, and then selecting the nature-based solutions that are capable of addressing the targets. And in the end, we use the evaluation indicators to assess this type of implemented nature-based solutions. I cannot emphasize how many stakeholders we had to consult, especially the general public, because the main criteria was the public health and well-being. So doing just the technical design, sitting in your office, discussing with different types of specialists on what is good for a site, actually gives you very little good solutions that can be implemented locally, that can be used locally, and that actually have any type of a purpose on this site, on a particular site. The different phases in the implementation of NBS are the planning and the design, where we identify the challenges, the goals, or co-create the solutions, as I mentioned earlier. And for this, it was very important to understand what is the local context, what are the potential impacts, to develop different strategies to address the impacts, but the impacts, very high weight was given to the impacts that were selected as important by the local stakeholders. Then there was the technical part of building and the deployment, securing the funding, the permits, coordinating with the contractors, and building and planting. And then what's very important in the NBS implementation is the maintenance of this, the stewardship. And the monitoring and maintaining of the solutions is necessary to ensure their long-term success. And the maintaining of solutions also needs to be backed up by the local community. Regular assessments, community engagement, and so on. The variety of the engagement activities was from different type of training sessions, different type of co-creation workshops, first co-planning workshops, then co-creation workshops, co-design workshops, and in the end, monitoring and assessment workshops. And we worked with, again, different types of a variety of stakeholders, meaning different professionals, but also with school kids. And for them, for example, it was necessary to present them the data, at least that's how we selected. We decided to present them the data in a way that was very palpable for them, and that was through a video game. So they would get a video game of their euPOLIS site, which was the surrounding area of their school. And then they would select the different nature-based solutions. They could walk around the site and see how these nature-based solutions can actually improve the thermal comfort or the aesthetics, or, okay, maybe we did some of the, it was mostly the thermal comfort and the expected aesthetics of the area when we were working with the kids. The sites were different in sizes. So the one in Denmark was a smaller site of just below 1 hectare. The one in Poland was also a passage of 0.7 hectares. In Piraeus, we had 3 different but connected sites. Also, each one of them was small. And the type of solutions which were eventually implemented were mostly some, let's say, functional greenery, so pocket parks, shaded places, vertical air purifiers. In case of the marine one, we had some, how is it called? It's a holder for the marine biolife, so like an artificial coral holder to improve the quality of this canal. And then we had quite large sites of 4 and 5 hectares in Belgrade. Now, what were the challenges in all of these sites? Well, the space was quite limited to the requirements of the people, of what the people wanted to have in the site. And in general, there is a competition for land use when we are implementing nature-based solutions, because whether you want to do a park, you have to make some sort of a assessment whether it's more, if it's an investment urbanism like the one we have in Serbia, whether you will have more return of investment, whether you implement some housing or industry or infrastructure projects, or whether it actually makes any sense to do a park. So if we want to do an improvement of a public space like the one that we did in euPOLIS, we have to show that the different small-scale solutions can actually provide multiple functions. The economic factors cannot be neglected. The initial costs of implementing these nature-based solutions can be quite high, but also of similar magnitude can be the ongoing maintenance and the management of NBS. We have encountered many different regulatory barriers where the existing urban planning regulations and policies did not support the nature-based solutions that we wanted to implement. So, for example, in these cases, we needed to change the planning regulations, to wait for the change of the planning regulations. And of course, since these nature-based solutions usually have part of greenery and also so part of the green infrastructure and part of the blue infrastructure, they require a coordination among multiple stakeholders, such as different agencies of the city. For example, in all of these cities, different agencies are the ones who deal with parks and the ones who deal with water. So depending on what was the coordination between these agencies, this was it was directly related to how fast you could implement a certain solution. Because it's a combination of the green and the blue, you have also the lack of expertise in most places, in most agencies. The professionals that were necessary to design, to implement and maintain this NBS were not present. So we had to rely on work with the professional communities who could help with implementing such solutions. And of course, the implementation of nature-based solutions requires robust data and monitoring systems to measure their performance and outcomes. And this it can come with very high costs. So I think what I will show you later with how we implemented some of the monitoring solutions, it can be a good idea to optimize resources and use it for maintenance of NBS. Also, barriers that exist in the NBS are the public perception. So depending on the community, some residents can see the green infrastructure as not functional enough to address the projects. They would actually prefer to have something more of traditional engineering solutions. And of course, the environmental factors. So since we were working in different climate areas, what was selected as a good solution to be implemented to address a certain issue in the Mediterranean region cannot automatically be used in a more cooler region in the north. Biodiversity of and enhancement of biodiversity in urban areas has shown, many studies have shown that it actually can influence quite, that it can help with the improvement, especially of mental health. But what can be a problem with the implementing nature-based solutions is whether the local biodiversity will be destroyed, and whether this new sort of an ecosystem that which is placed can be sustained in long term. And the newly implemented nature-based solutions, of course, need to be integrated with the existing infrastructure, and for this can be many of the compatibility issues. And as previously mentioned, some of the funding can be quite challenging. Now, I guess what's the most interesting about this is the monitoring and assessment of these nature-based solutions that have been implemented. So just reminding you about so we used the contextual indicators to come up with the initial assessment and to come up with some of the solutions, and with the evaluation indicators, which we use to assess the NBS, we need to monitor it. As far as the biodiversity and health, I mentioned it influences foremost the mental health, so it can decrease the anxiety, it can decrease the stress levels by being surrounded with, different plant species, with the different animal species. And in addition, the soil organisms can, through their role in controlling the soil-borne pathogens, lessen the prevalence of allergic diseases. Of course, one cannot talk about nature-based solutions and health and not mention the possible negative health outcomes. And these are, for example, the allergic reactions, either through the, allergies with the pollen coming from the different plant species, or the vector-borne diseases. But this mostly can be mitigated by good maintenance and selection of species which are not, do not cause so many allergies. This is why we have collaborated with quite a lot of biologists and forest engineers who have helped in selecting different plant species based on their expected functions. So whether we want to have a good shade in the summer, whether we want to have a good barrier in the winter from the winter winds, if a certain location needs a lot of adiabatic cooling, or if the issue is the air quality, then some of the plants are more capable of providing air purification. Here, an interesting site is the one in Belgrade, which was planned with vegetation corridors which promote the wind in a way that in areas like this area here or this area here. So because the dominant wind, can you see my cursor? I hope you do. So the dominant wind comes from this side, and by passing through this vegetation, it actually gets cooler, and this area can be used even in the hottest of the hot months. What did the systematic monitoring now, because we wanted to see, okay, so we implemented the nature-based solutions and we want to see how well they can address the health concerns. So for this, we had the subjective type of monitoring, so introducing the different surveys and questionnaires to get people's perceptions, attitudes, like what are their experiences with the site, very, very subjective. Like then more technical, I would say, or more objective monitoring, which is the biodiversity field surveys and the network of environmental sensors, which was to capture the microclimate parameters, what is the air quality improvements, the water quality improvements in the different areas in the site. And I think innovative for this project was the use of physiological monitoring. So to see, which actually was done using the smart wearables. It was mostly doesn't really matter which smart wearable, but any type which can measure the skin temperature, the pulse, the oxygenation levels, provide levels of physical activity, the sleep quality, and in general can be used to have some user feedback. And this was used to gather the data on how people physiologically respond to spending time in the improved areas, in the public parks, in the public areas where the nature-based solutions have been implemented. In addition, we also use the different type of smart wearables. So the first one for the physiological, any type of commercial wearable which can measure this type of things is totally okay to be used. But for psychological, it was a proprietary smart wearable from one of the Greek partners, which is used to measure the physiological signals and then apply different advanced machine learning algorithms to analyze and recognize the wearer's emotions. So whether somebody who is in contact with nature-based solutions is feeling more happy, more sad, content, or there are, I think, 16 different emotions which can be detected using this type of wearables. The environmental system is consists of using cheap or Internet of Things sensors. So a distributed network which measures in multiple points, for example, for microclimate analysis, the temperature and the humidity at level of human at human height. For water quality, different type of sensors, and also, I mean, if we're talking about the water quality, we also had to use some laboratory analysis. Now, since all these sensors, you can only have, even though they are cheap, you can only have a few. I mean, you can only have a limited number of these types of sensors, and to improve the assessment, we use them in combination with the modeling, and one of the modeling software was the EnviMet to get the microclimatic distribution of temperature, of human comfort, of humidity, and so on. I mentioned the biodiversity field studies. This was done to measure the biodiversity, to see the species richness, to see the plant richness of the implemented solutions. Here is an example of how butterfly transect is done. So in a square, the person who is doing the assessment goes on a designated path and identifies all the species expected in this area. In addition to using the commercial wearable, we have developed an euPOLIS application where users could see all their different type, aggregated data of their health. So it was their physical activity, the sleep quality, the heart rate, and so on. We also use this application to provide some of the questionnaires so the type of assessment where we needed their opinions on different aspects of the implemented nature-based solutions. And because we used the same community to plan these nature-based solutions and then to monitor them, they were much more interested in doing a proper assessment, in providing their own opinions, because they were part of the process in creating the site. So I think this cannot be neglected. Now, when we were analyzing the data of what we have monitored on sites, I will here present just some of the selected results. I think this is public health for Piraeus, for Athens area, and some of the social results in Łódź. So what we did was try to find whether there are some interesting patterns in the heart rate data. And the statistical analysis indicates a slightly higher variability during the weekend, suggesting more relaxed physiological conditions. Analyzing the data from the emotional sensors, where the yellow is the before and the green is the after interventions, we have also noticed a slight decrease in the negative emotions and slight increase in the positive ones. Whether this was really objective, whether it was biased by the people who were so happy to have these solutions implemented, we are not sure. But I mean, it's interesting to see this type of data because it hasn't been used. This type of sensors have not been used previously in this way. The social assessment, of course, needs, it was done. So yeah, I haven't given you the details on how it was done. So what we did was do an extensive monitoring before implementing the nature-based solutions. So for some of the sites, it was a whole year. For some of the sites, we only managed like 3 months or so. And then we did the study after the implementation. Again, depending on how fast the site was being developed in the project. For some of them, it was only 3 months. For some of them, it was close to a year. And here presented are some of the aggregated results. And in terms of the social ones, so what we wanted to see is how the different age groups and how the different genders, what they when they use what is their dominant time of use of the park, and also what is their how do they find the friendliness of the site, how do they find the comfort of use, sense of safety, what is the walkability, and so on, depending in different times of the day. This is a spider diagram. Again, the blue one is the before the intervention and the green one is after the intervention. And if we have an improvement, just so that you have a visual understanding. So if there is an improvement in a parameter, the diagram is larger. So the more of a difference from blue to green, that means a more of a improvement in that parameter. This is a site in Denmark, and the following are the results of the microclimatic assessment using the modeling software of ENVIMAT. The site was equipped with multiple sensors for temperature and humidity, and we use these points for calibrating the model. And these are the simulated values for the for PET. What we can see here, depending on of the implemented nature-based solutions, is that the lake here acts as a very strong cooling zone, improving the comfort here in its immediate surroundings. And here, where the evaporative vertical wall was made, and why was there an evaporative wall? Because the issue of this site is the extensive runoff that needed to be that both the professionals and the local community decided that the good way to decrease the runoff was to try to evaporate the surplus water. So they made different zones of water collection and zones of evaporation. And apparently this evaporation wall actually provided a localized hotspot because it blocked the wind coming from that side. We also did a water cycle analysis using UWatt from NTUA, and we have concluded there is a substantial decrease in the runoff coefficient. There is a clear reduction in the local flooding, significant improvements in stormwater retention and local reuse, and a measurable increase in the water autonomy of the site. We also did the biodiversity, and it showed a mixed picture. Of course, some bird species do not favor what has been implemented, the new site conditions, while others appear to like it. This is a site in Belgrade, and this site, by the end of the project, was not fully developed. So what I will present here is just the simulation, what is expected to have with the with the implemented green infrastructure. We would have the very, very high cooling effects of this vegetation. Again, this was just the preliminary study of the biodiversity, so we are expecting the follow-up results once this park is completed. Now, to find what are the health indicators related to the physical activity, I have selected here to show you euPOLIS KPIs, which are compound indicators that consist of the level of outdoor physical activity, increase in the number of people participating, diversity of people participating, and the walkability of the site. And don't look maybe at the numbers, but just look at the whether it's green or red. So wherever it is green, it has actually managed to fulfill the target of this, which was set for a particular site. The physical activity in all the sites where it was evaluated has increased because the sites have actually become much more welcoming to the local community. The health indicators related to the improvement of local conditions, the noise pollution, the air quality, the air temperature, and the human comfort temperatures and the comfort of use, again, have mostly improved in all the sites, have managed to fulfill the targets which were set at the sites. Now, what we wanted to do once we had this type of data coming from the different climate regions with different NBS solutions, we tried to combine them to see what are the vegetation dominant nature-based solutions which were used, what are the vertical vegetation solutions, what are the ones which contain water, and which are just the social activity enabling solutions, which in a broader sense can be looked as nature-based solutions, but are actually just activity areas. And for each of these, we have tried to synthesize what are their environmental impacts, what are their socioeconomic impacts, what are their health and well-being impacts. For example, a tree planter can, using the greenery, can provide psychological restoration by decreasing the air pollutants and the mean radiant temperature, and also finding where are the most effective climate regions based on the 4 sites that we had. And I think this is interesting. You can find it on the euPOLIS site, like what are the main key findings of these different types of grouped nature-based solutions. In addition, we did simulation of stress testing to assess the robustness of the NBS under extreme and degraded conditions. And for this, we used both the UWatt from NTUA, which is a tool that analyzes the water cycle, and also the ENVIMET for the microclimate. And we did it for 2 extreme weather conditions, for a fully functional system and for fully failed systems. And again, I didn't want to put too many stuff on this presentation. You can see it in the side, the key findings. The main limitation in this project was a very short post-implementation monitoring period, which was only about 3 months for some of the sites. And we strongly believe this is due to the limited time where we had to plan, change planning regulations, design, implement, and monitor the solutions. And if the solutions which were selected are hard solutions where you have to build them, where you have to wait for them to be established, like in the case of the blue-green infrastructure, it is a very short time frame to have all the seasonal representatives. The vegetation-based, nature-based solutions need longer growth cycles. Although we used plants which were more adult, still for this 1 year or even 3 months of post-implementation monitoring, we didn't have enough time to collect all the data. The health and the social indicators, for example, we know for sure that they will evolve gradually as the users adapt. So the data I presented is just from the initial functional and behavioral responses. So for the future work, we are extending the monitoring now to capture this season, the next season, and so on, to follow up with the monitoring. And what we surely can say with the data coming from this project is that if we want to have healthier cities, they are not only greener and cooler, but the data coming from the subjective assessments indicates that they need to be safer, they need to be more inclusive, they need to be attractive for outdoor activity, for people to use it. The replication message is clear. The investment in NBS should be accompanied by investment in monitoring, data integration, and long-term evaluation. This type of data collection, creation of the evidence, gathering of the evidence is actually very positive for improving the acceptance of green solutions to be used for addressing certain type of challenges instead of the traditional engineering methods. And euPOLIS shows that these multifunctional solutions can support health, well-being, climate adaptation through this type of stress assessment, provide environmental improvement, and people-centered urban resilience. That's what I have prepared for you for today. So I would be happy to answer.
Yes, thank you very much. It was very interesting to see such complex transdisciplinary, multidisciplinary research and demonstration with many sciences included and with deep stakeholder engagement. So thank you for presenting that for us. Do we have a question? Please raise your hand and write it in the chat.
There's a question in the Q&A section.
Yes, can you read it, Jess? Please.
Yep. So the question is, do you think NBS, particularly those that detain standing surface water for extended periods in urban areas, could lead to increased insects such as mosquitoes, especially in warmer climates? If so, how might this affect public acceptance and support for the implementation of NBS, and how would you mitigate this?
Yes. And I mean, the question is to the point. Any type of detention of surface water solution that detains or retains surface water can lead to the increase in insects that can later on, in addition to just biting, they can also be transmitters of many different types of infectious diseases, not just mosquitoes. Many different insects do it. And the answer is that because of this, the general public is not, at least in the size where we were asking, is not really, they do not want to accept this type of solutions. So to show them, because we anyhow did it, to show it, we have introduced, we have worked with biologists to design it in a way to have the predators of mosquitoes. That's the easiest way I can describe it. So to have enough of the plants, pond plants, which support the whole ecosystem, so that you have the insects which eat the mosquitoes or the larvae of the insects. And of course, it needs to be maintained. So in addition to designing it well, it needs to be regularly monitored and maintained.
Thank you, Anja. I hope that the audience is satisfied with the answer. I would like to pose a question. It was very interesting. You just mentioned some possible spots of negative impacts of nature-based solutions, if not mitigated or prevented on time. What is about the overall picture with nature-based solutions planted in urban areas? Is there a risk that you actually may disturb the environmental balance? Or is it somehow calculated in some bigger picture with urbanization to be balanced with NBS installed in the cities to compensate the intensive urbanizations and ruining the environment? Have you thought about that aspect in your project?
So I remember the environmental engineers being very, very concerned with introducing this type of green and blue infrastructure, which is intended to improve the biodiversity, to bring more plant species, to bring more animal species, but then it can actually influence the already existing, even though it's a small biodiversity that exists in the urban areas, it would actually and maybe you saw it in one of the graphs with the birds. You have some of the birds going away and some of the new birds coming in. What in the end is a good solution? Of course, you're changing the ecosystem, but as long as this has no negative effects towards a larger on a larger scale, if you're again connecting certain zones, so that's why you bring more of the certain types of animals, or whether you're actually bringing animals again so that people can come in contact with this type of nature. This is something that needs to be followed in long term to see whether it's a bad or a good. I mean, you already did it in a bad way by providing urbanization, by killing all the nature, by extracting, by making it very, very. I mean, even if you look at the parks that you have in the cities, they are mostly very with at least these measurements show that they are very with low plant diversity and low animal diversity, because people favor to have, just red flowers, red roses, and, something that's pretty, you don't have this type of a complexity of an ecosystem. So when you design this type of nature-based solutions, you try to bring back this type of complex nature so that you have local plants, so that you have plants which are, accustomed to the climate where you're putting them, and try to show to people that they are actually useful.
Thank you, Anja. So this is really a complex item, and multidisciplinary scientific teams should really work on implementation. I see there is a question in the question and answer session. Ciprian Nanu has asked, how was the relation with local authorities more important in Belgrade and Piraeus? Do you have any idea to scale up in more areas of the mentioned, apart from the mentioned one? So the question is, how did you go with the local authorities and stakeholders? So, the images you presented show that you went well, but can you please say a few more details on that?
Okay, I will try to be careful with explaining this one. So even though in this particular areas, because I mean, this is the area of WaterWise project as well, which is, I think, why Ciprian is asking. Local authorities were happy to hear all the questions, but not so happy to implement them in the way that the local community wants it. So, and it was this was quite extreme in Belgrade, for example. I would say there was some type of a censorship in what they wanted to implement in the sites. Piraeus, on the other hand, was, even though they did not accept all the needs of, I mean, all the requirements of the local community, they are very happy with how the site came out to be. So they see it, they see future in implementing it. For example, one of the sites was a school, and they really enjoyed in working with the local authority enjoyed working with the school children and improving the school site, improving the microclimate of the school by using this type of solutions. So it seems as though they will plan on to do it in other school areas.
That's very interesting. Would you mind adding a few words about that? Did they actually take over the installed and nature-based solutions? Did the local authorities has taken care of? Will they maintain the solutions that you have?
So the main issue of maintaining the solutions was if there was a blue infrastructure. So if there were some piping or some ponding or some, this was very difficult for both Piraeus and Belgrade authorities to accept. So this is where I say they had some type of a censorship. So they just didn't implement them as much. Whereas in Łódź and in Denmark, in Poland and in Denmark, they were happy to implement even the blue infrastructure, and they would find the agency in the city that will maintain. In Belgrade and Piraeus, they didn't know, which agency, like in hierarchy, has to maintain it. Nobody wanted it because it has also the greenery and the blue stuff. So they just, took out the difficult one and kept the greenery, and then you have the agency which maintains the parks and stuff to maintain also this type of infrastructure.
Yes, thank you, Anja. Jess, I don't see any further questions in the session of question and answers.
There is one on the...
One more that's just been put in. Yeah. So this is from Christine. So she says, thank you. The project is great evidence based to attract future funders, possibly non-traditional ones such as insurance companies, for capital delivery and revenue maintenance. Are there any follow-up projects to extend this work, and any advice on cost-effective rollout of your gold standard stakeholder engagement?
Honestly, there will be a follow-up from the SMEs of the project on how to extend this work in terms of developing this type of a business components. I'm not that much, I would not be comfortable with giving any advice on the cost effects. Sorry about that. But the SMEs are interested because they would want to develop their activities around it.
You've got one more question as well. So
no,
this
one,
Ian.
Yeah. Using the wearables to quantify the health outcomes, actually. And I can say this also from the personal point, because we also participated in the study, but also from the data coming from the users. The smart health wearables sound as a fantastic way of doing the, objective monitoring of health. You get the heart rate, you have the sleep quality, but people get so stressed about it. and because they get so stressed about it, they don't want to wear them. So, and they are not so comfortable, especially because we tried to engage the different parts of the community. So also people, for example, in Denmark, it was a social housing, and people were receivers of the social benefits. And their feedback on the wearables was that they didn't want to use them because it tracked their activities, you know, and they somehow thought that this will influence the benefits that they are receiving. That's like the extreme one, but like, you know, just from the general public, people don't want to know whether they're healthy or not. You know, they want to live in ignorance. And we saw it too, as, you know, following the study from the people and also from us. Like, so yeah, it's a bit stressful. But I think it's an interesting study, like, because it hasn't been used in this way. So it's good to see like whether you can actually have some significant measurements of, you know, physiological effects. And even though we show, you know, the variability of heart rate, you know, meaning more physical activity during the weekend, it's if we are being like totally on it, it's very negligible. And to make any type of health conclusions, you need a way more people. So we use like the local community. I don't know, in some places it's like 100 people, but in other places it's to get a good assessment. I think you would need, you know, thousands of people to have some meaningful outcome.
Yes, thank you, Anja. I think we have time for one more question. Jess, is that correct? We have one more question.
We do.
Yes.
We do have time. I don't think there is any more questions in the chat. So if there isn't, I was just wondering, have you got any papers on some of the social findings from the project? Because they were really interesting and I'd quite like to look it up.
So we are now preparing the post effect, so the comparison between the before and the after ones. I think hopefully by the end of this year it will be accepted for publishing. But we had the before measurements in different conferences, in different I can send you if you're interested.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Reading the analysis. Yeah, we had a whole social group from the University of Warsaw who was doing the social assessment with the help of different SMEs and in different cities. So it was interesting.
It sounds really interesting. So I think we will close, but thank you. Well, thank you, Anja, for your presentation, and thank you, Dijana, for helping me co-host. This was the second one of our summer webinars, and we do have one more, which will be with Boostin, and that will be in July, mid-July. So look out, it will be on LinkedIn. There'll be a link to the Eventbrite page, and people can register, and then that'll be great. But anyway, thank you, everyone. I see most people have gone off now, but thank you again. That was really great.
Yes.
Speak to you all
Have a good day. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Have
Enjoy
a good
the
day.
sun.
Bye.